Hi, friends. Welcome to the Healing Home Journey. I'm Val, and in today's video, we'll be talking about anatomy in relation to Yin Yoga. I'll be going over a few benefits of the Yin Yoga practice, some key anatomical terms and concepts that you might come across in a Yin Yoga class, and also what the main difference is between Yin Yoga and Yang Yoga. So let's get to it. The Yin Yoga practice is such a healing and nourishing practice. It allows you to connect deeper with yourself and with the meditative space of yoga. So, if you are someone who that resonates with, if you are interested in getting a little deeper within your body, your mind, and your spirit, then be sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, follow along all the way till the end. I've also got a really funny video at the end, so definitely don't miss that. And be sure to turn on the notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Let's get right into it. So, Yin Yoga. What is Yin Yoga? Yin Yoga is a slower paced, more passive style of posture yoga class. So, we target the connective tissue in Yin Yoga versus in Yang, we target the muscles. In Yin, we work on lengthening and strengthening and creating more depth in the ligaments, the fascia, the tendons, again, those deeper connective tissues, so we can bring more health to our joints and allow more resiliency to our body. In Yin Yoga, we focus on postures that are held for longer periods of time. So you will definitely focus more with props in a Yin Yoga style class. So you'll typically have two blocks, a bolster, a blanket or two, or however many you'd like, and maybe a sandbag or something that's weighted to help you kind of settle in and surrender to the posture a little bit more. So, some benefits to having a Yin Yoga practice. Physical benefits would be that it enhances the flexibility by targeting your deeper connective tissues. It improves your mobility and helps maintain healthy fascia. We'll get into what fascia is once we get to the anatomical terms. Some mental and emotional benefits with Yin Yoga is that it is a practice that allows you to settle and surrender into more of the parasympathetic nervous system. So you'll have less stress, less anxiety the more that you practice Yin Yoga. It'll allow you to quiet the mind as best as you can. We are human, so all we do is go, 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 right? We have this task to do, that task to do. We have that thing to check off the to-do list. So it's so normal for us to be in such a fast-paced world, right? That's why faster-paced classes kind of just settle really well with us. However, when we come to a Yin class and we start to slow down, our mind is still trying to move forward. So it's a really good space to give some introspection and a deeper reflection into your emotional body and allow more mindfulness into your mind. So it is one of those kinds of classes that requires more discipline for the mental space, right? And more spaciousness to connect with your breath at a slower pace and longer holds. So, mental and emotional benefit is that it allows more mindfulness. It allows you to tap into some of those quieter, more introspective moments in your life. And one other benefit that's really nice is that it balances the body's energetic system. So, we'll talk a little bit about meridian lines in just a moment. But what it does is it brings this overall health to our well being by tapping into the meridian lines, which are a main focus and inspiration for the Yin Yoga practice through traditional Chinese medicine. Now, Yin Yoga versus Yang Yoga. What is the main difference? What do we need from both of the practices? So, Yin is, again, more of that passive, slower style of yoga, while Yang is more of that active movement. In Yin, we practice more with a cooler body and we keep it cool throughout class. And in Yang, we work towards building heat in the body, creating warmth in the muscles, and we focus on more repetitive movement. In Yin, we focus on just a handful of postures, so perhaps 5 to 7 postures, and we'll spend longer periods of time within those postures. Yang, there's typically a bunch of different sequences, right? So in like a vinyasa class, you might experience a grounding sequence, an awakening sequence, a warrior sequence, a balancing, abs, hips, back bends, twisting, and then all the way to Shavasana. So there's a lot of transitional spaces and postures within a movement class or a yang style class, such as vinyasa, ashtanga, hatha. In yin, we're in just a handful of poses throughout class, and we're holding those poses for longer periods of time. So it gives more space for our deeper connective tissue to actually settle and rest and stretch and lengthen, versus in the yang style class, we're purposely trying to build like muscle memory and contract the muscle to create more of that repetitive movement, to build that strength, to work towards that flexibility. Think of it as like a yang class is more stimulating and a yin class is more surrendering. Yeah. So we're going to move into some common anatomical terms that you might come across in a yin yoga class, and I'll break them down very briefly. I'm not going to overload you with a lot of anatomy and a lot of depth within these terms, but the point is just to kind of get a nice idea of what they are, maybe how you can integrate them into your body. And all in all, the biggest thing is that when you practice yin, you'll come to your mat with a little bit more of a profound depth of the meaning of these words and these concepts. So then you can discover it on your own. You can feel it in your own body. You can notice the changes in the sensations and what's at play more in your own space, rather than just learning about it and not being able to integrate it within. So we're going to get into one of the first terms that you'll come across, which is meridian lines. Meridian lines, as stated, come from inspiring traditional Chinese medicine for yin yoga. Now, meridian lines, if you can think of how veins carry blood, meridian lines are these invisible pathways that carry energy or qi throughout the body. Now, in traditional Chinese medicine, the energy is called qi. In traditional yoga, you might hear it as prana. It's basically just our life force. It's what allows us to live and to breathe and to be energetic beings here in this physical body. So in yin yoga, what we do with meridian lines is we stimulate them by holding poses in targeted areas for longer periods of time. And what that does is it creates, so let's actually backpedal. In our meridian lines or in our energy channels, we might have blocks. Let's just use the example of someone who sits down at a desk all day, right? You're sitting down at a desk for your job on the computer. So you're in this position of your seat where maybe you kind of slouch and you put some tension into your back, which then goes into your hips. And then maybe you are hunched over, right, writing on your computer. So you're in this really poor posture. But let's say that that's your career. So every day you wake up, you drive, you're in the sitting position to work. You get to work, you sit at your desk for hours upon hours, and then you get up, you leave, you go home, and you're driving again. You're still in the sitting position. Then you come home and you make dinner, you sit at the dinner table, and you're in this position again. And after, you want to relax, so you go onto the couch, and you're in the sitting position again. And most likely throughout all of those sitting positions, you are probably a little slouched. It's okay, right? You're not going to always have the most beautiful posture while you're driving, while you're hanging out on the couch, while you're eating dinner. So our bodies get these blocks of tension within them, especially in the hips. The hips are a really major target area that we focus on in yin, which also leads to the low back, which also leads to the spine, especially if you're in that hunched position, shoulders, your neck. It's a lot of tension in these specific areas. So in yin, we focus on those targeted areas to unblock, unwind, and unravel those balls of tension, right? We'll get into fascia next, but the fascia is this connective tissue that can show up in those wound up balls of tension. So with the meridian lines, as we hold these poses and bring some extra length into them, we allow that connective tissue to slowly unravel, to slowly unwind. I like to think about it like peeling the layers back. Think of an onion, right? You peel the layer back and you peel the layer back and you peel the layer back until you get to the center where the onion began and where it sprouted. So we want to peel back the layers of that tension to come to the space where we feel the most whole and complete and happy. So one other thing about meridian lines is that meridians are connected to specific organs. We have about 12 major meridians. I'm not going to get super into them, but each meridian is connected to an organ. And in order for that organ to function properly, it needs to have that chi flowing to it with freedom, right? With a lot of spaciousness and a lot of opportunity to flow to and from the meridian line. And each organ is correlated with a specific emotion. So that's why Yin Yoga is really good to help release emotional tension and emotional baggage. If you ever heard of like holding a hip posture, maybe pigeon pose for a long period of time, people will say that they've experienced crying and tears falling down their face. Or when you've completed a Yin Yoga class or any yoga class and you're laying in Shavasana, you might just have tears falling down. Well, you did a lot of emotional release. So in Yin Yoga, we target the organs through the meridian lines, and those organs are connected with emotions and different kinds of emotions for each organ. So depending on what area you are working on is what you might trigger as far as an emotion. What's beautiful is that it's just providing overall support for the body, the mind, and the spirit. So through this practice, we're creating a more harmonious space for us to rest in. We're going to move into fascia. And fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds muscles, organs, and other structures within the body. Yin Yoga targets fascia by holding these poses for longer periods of time, allowing for that deep release, right? So imagine fascia as like a web, a lattice-like web, or you can envision like a spider web. And it's the structure that connects all of us from head to toe to fingers, and it weaves throughout the body, and it creates our structure, right? So the more we are in that seated position, the more our structure will kind of mold to that seated position. Where we're in this space, it just kind of gets like that over time. So the more people sit with their chin down, hunched shoulders, the more likely you'll see them have that rounded back, yeah? But the more you have an open chest, broad shoulders, relaxed posture, but also a proud posture, the more you'll see people with an open chest, and that will express confidence, right? If you do this, that expresses lack of confidence or maybe self-doubt. So that's kind of where those emotions come into play. Again, we're not going to get too deep into that, but yeah, really interesting stuff. Now we also have tendons. Tendons are another connective tissue, and tendons connect muscles to bones. In Yin Yoga, poses that require a deep stretch help by improving the flexibility of tendons and keeping them at their healthiest. So next we have ligaments. So ligaments are what connects your bone to bone. Tendons connect muscle to bone, and ligaments are bone to bone. And so what they do is they provide stability to our joints. If you can think of your knee joint, right? You have your bones, you have your knee joint, and then you also have like this web of fascia around it. Then you have the tendons that connect the muscles to the bone. Then you also have those ligaments, which are connecting bone to bone. And we have this sense of stability within our knee, right? So our knee isn't just caving in all the time or it's caving out all the time. And it's in this structured space where we have the support to allow our knees to bend, right? To flex and extend, but also to be protected that we're not overextending them, right? Or overbending them. What's really important with our connective tissue is that it's there to kind of hold things in place, right? So if I were to try and like bend my foot all the way to my head, it's going to prevent that from overstretching and having that hyperflexion or hyperextension within joints in the body. So the connective tissue of ligaments, fascia, and tendons are really there to create a supportive structure for us. The more we can bring a healthy space of stress and strain to them through the practice of yoga, which we'll get into in just a moment, the more we can explore our edge within the practice and create more space to grow into and to expand into. So another term that you'll hear within a yin yoga practice, and possibly even other practices of yoga, is joints and joint mobility. And what does that mean? Well, within our body, we have joints, which are points where two or more bones meet. Yin Yoga focuses on mobilizing and nourishing the joints, particularly in the hips, in the spine, and in the shoulders. Think about joint mobility as how easily you can move your joints through their range of motion, which is the full movement potential of a joint. Yin Yoga is a practice that helps to keep these joints lubricated and healthy so they can be in their fullest expression of their range of motion. Stress and strain. Stress and strain. Stress refers to the force applied to a tissue, while strain is the tissue's response to that force. Yin Yoga strategically applies stress to connective tissue to create beneficial strain. And this helps to make those tissues stronger and more flexible over time. So think about it like this. It's like gently pulling on a rubber band. With consistent practice, the band, or in this case, your joints, become more pliable and resilient, right? The more you pull on that rubber band, the looser it gets over time, over time, over time. But if you were to just pull that rubber band as far as it'll go until it can't go anymore right away without time and without space, then the rubber band might snap. We don't want our tendons and ligaments to snap because they take a lot more time to heal than a muscle would. So it's really important to allow the yin yoga practice to work over time within a pose. We hold those poses for longer periods of time, anywhere from 3 to 7 to 9 or longer minutes within a pose. And it's within that space where we can slowly pull at that tissue, slowly stress it, and let that beneficial strain come in. So stress and strain are important aspects within the yin yoga practice. And it's really important to find a balance where there's enough stress to create beneficial strain without overdoing it into pain. Never want to experience pain, but a little discomfort is okay. Yeah. Now we also have compression and tension. Compression occurs when tissues are pressed together, while tension occurs when tissues are stretched. Right? So you have compression when the tissues are pressed together, and then you have tension when the tissues are pulled away from each other. So you create that tension, that resistance. Yin Yoga uses both to affect change in the body, particularly in the joints and connective tissues. So recognizing the difference between tension and compression helps you listen to your body, knowing when to deepen into a pose or when to ease off of it. We also have rebound. Rebound, and we'll couple it with counterpose, is how we come out of the pose. So when we're holding these poses in yin, we're holding them for long periods of time. We're working on stretching that fascia, the connective tissue. So when we come out of it, we don't want to just jolt ourselves out of it because it'll just be a huge shock to our deeper connective tissues. We don't want to do that, right? We want to come out of it. I like to cue my students as slow as a sloth. And when we move as slow as a sloth, if you can envision how slow a sloth moves, let's just say we're in a forward fold, right? We've been in here for, let's say, 8 minutes. You're going to want to come out as gently as possible, as slow as possible, as slow as a sloth, so you can let everything kind of rebound back to a normal space. So when you come up, you can settle. You can let the body kind of reset. Notice the sensations that are rushing through the body. Notice the blood flow that's allowing that energy or that chi to flow more freely through your meridian lines. And then you generally take a counterpose. So let's say you were in flexion for a posture. You're going to want to do extension after that. If you were rotated on one side, you'll want to balance it off with being rotated on the other. If you abducted the hips, then you'll want to adduct them after. And when we work with these terms, and when we have a better understanding of how these anatomical concepts connect to the physical practice of yin yoga, or even more of the deeper introspective practice of yin yoga, it's really nice to just be mindful that they're just a starting point, right? Knowing these terms and these meanings will just give you a more profound sense of the body awareness within the practice. When we can provide space for these sensations to just be, without judging them and without trying to explain them to ourselves, but rather just observing them, that's truly where the learning happens. That's truly where the growth happens. So understanding anatomy in relation to Yin Yoga will not only help you approach your practice with a little bit more understanding, a little bit deeper sense of connection within your body, but it'll just give you this greater idea of, what's going on below the surface and how am I connecting with that. Yeah. You can also use it as a tool to, as you continue to take Yin Yoga classes, maybe just reflect back on. You think of, if you're a yoga practitioner and you've taken many, many, many Yin classes, maybe the first time you ever took your Yin Yoga class, the first time you ever took Yin, what was your body like? How did your body respond to it versus now on your 100th Yin class or however many Yin classes you've taken in your life? What have you learned along the way? And if you're new to the practice, give yourself the space to be a beginner, because we're just learning our bodies on deeper levels. We're connecting with our mind, our body, and our spirit in harmony, right? We're trying to bring balance within them. So the practices of yoga are so beneficial to be complementary with each other. So if you have a really powerful, active yoga practice, balance it out with some yin. And if you tend to veer more into the yin and restorative and gentler and slower classes, maybe balance it out with a bit more of an active class and see how those two complement each other within your own body. So to wrap up this discussion, we've talked about what Yin Yoga is on a brief level. We've talked about Yin versus Yang style classes and the difference between them, and some key anatomical terms that you may come across within your Yin Yoga practices. These terms aren't just abstract ideas, but they're directly related to how we experience each pose and can guide us into our practice more safely and effectively. So thank you for joining with me today. I hope you learned one or two or many things. Feel free to share any of your questions and comments in the comment box below, or any experience that you've had with Yin Yoga. I'd love to hear about it and to chat with you. If you are someone who is interested in growing your mind, body, and spirit connection through the practices of yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, then be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now I'm going to share with you something that happened while I was about to record this class. It's really funny. It's a blooper. So I hope that leaves you with a little giggle and a little laugh, and just know to never take yourself seriously, because it's life, and life is a journey. It ebbs and flows. It has its ups, it has its downs, it has its peaks, it has its valleys, and all in all, it brings us home to that inner light where we want to allow it to grow more vibrantly. So thank you for being here today. I'm Val, and I will see you on the mat soon. Namaste. Oh, oh, oh. I fell off of the stool, and I got that on video. And I almost burned the house down because I hit into the candle that did not fall on the ground, but it almost did. Okay, let's try that again.